Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and one of the questions obviously now all across the country is, are our freedoms being squelched by all the issues surrounding COVID? It's kind of like, is there an overreach of government, and yet the seriousness of the pandemic has got a lot of people split right down the middle as to where they are, and all you got to do is talk to somebody and you'll find out they have an opinion. But constitutionally, what's happening to us? Very timely to have back with us. Always honored to do so. Rick Green, he's the founder of the Patriots Academy. He's also a former legislator there in the Texas House. You can go to patriotsacademy.com is his website. And let me tell you, Rick and his team doing an excellent job across the country. You may want to get him booked before he's overbooked, okay? And that's patriotacademy.com. Good to see you, Brother Rick. How you doing, friend?
Hey, good to be back with you, brother.
All right. I'm trying to analyze this. I'm sure you are too. But it appears that there is a genuine concern that the government's overreaching. And then there's also a concern with a spike in COVID that it's a serious thing. Where's the balance in all of this? You add to that the fact that the science has been politicized, and we don't know. They're saying the science says, the data says, but they never show us that science and that data. And people have become very skeptical of what to do here. And I can tell you this, everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah.
So what's your take, friend?
Well, I'm definitely not as befuddled by it as the president apparently is. You know, when he said the other day, he's not sure how far he can go or what he can do, whether or not he can do mandates from the federal level, that sort of thing. I can answer that question for him very simply. Absolutely not. The federal government has zero power to do these mask mandates, vaccine mandates, all the things that they are now headed towards doing. There's nothing in the Constitution that gives them the ability to do that. So the first thing you have to ask is which level of government before you ask, you know, what they can do. And the Constitution only gives the federal government the ability to deal with things that are coming in from outside the country for something like this. So, yeah, absolutely, they have the power to prevent a virus or try to prevent a virus from coming into the country. It's why the travel ban that Trump did last year was perfectly constitutional. Certainly closing the border at the South would be constitutional if the CDC, the Center for Demented Confusion, if they really did care about the virus spreading and they thought that they had the power to do anything about it, that's one thing they could actually recommend is, hey, stop letting 200,000 people a month come across that we now know at least 40% of them have COVID. And we're putting them on planes and sending them all over the country. So, I mean, it's just so hypocritical to claim that they're trying to stop COVID as they stop us from breathing by forcing masks on us, or they force a vaccine on us, whether we want it or not, while at the same time leaving the border open for obvious, problems that are coming across there. So anyway, that's the federal government's role is very limited here constitutionally. They are way outside their boundaries already. State power, though, they do have the ability, the police power and the ability to try to stop a pandemic. And historically, government has done certain things, not anything like what we've done over the last year. We call them NPIs, non-pharmaceutical interventions. And back in March of last year, you had these white papers from these think tanks and some, universities that really, I believe, were deceptive in trying to educate the politicians on the powers of government, and they really expanded in their papers. They distorted historically what had been done in 1918 with Spanish flu, with swine flu, and other examples. And man, I'm telling you, the politicians ran with it, and they've done things that we have never ever done in our history. So in short, I would say we're way beyond the constitutional authority of the federal government. States have gone way beyond what their state authority is. And we've really lost that concept, that balance between security and liberty, or safety and liberty. Founder said, if you're willing to give up your safety or your security, willing to give up your liberty for safety or security, you deserve none of the above. And I'm afraid too much of America is falling into that category right there.
Arnold Schwarzenegger basically said that yesterday. He used some expletives to say, about your freedoms, mask up and vaccinate up. In other words, put safety in front of your freedom. Now, I realize what comes into play here is one's conscience and maybe even belief system. But the government now is trying to put science between us and that, undocumented science. So we
Right.
do have very notable people saying, you're crazy. I mean, he went on to basically say, forget you.
Yeah, Perry, I think honestly, you got to look at the psychology of the brain, and when fear takes over, logic is out the window,
Right.
and fear has taken over, not just in average Joes like me or you, but in the people that are leading the country, the people that are making these decisions, and you combine the fear taking over with what the founding fathers knew was the natural depravity of man to want to control other people and to have power. And you combine those two, and there are people that see this as an opportunity to literally remake America in the way that they want it to be, which is one where government tells you what to do, that you have, they even said last March and April, hey, what a great opportunity to restore faith in experts, to once again get everybody to rely on big government. And we've certainly seen that. But, you hit on something that is so important here. And that is that it's not that we're following the science. We're not following the science. We're not allowing the scientific method to take place. If we actually believed in science, then we would believe in testing, challenging. Instead, there's the narrative from the government, and nobody else can say anything that in any way differs from that, or they're kicked off YouTube, kicked off Facebook. The president of the United States even floated the idea of monitoring your texts and my text to see if there was anything in there that might differ with their national narrative. That is so incredibly dangerous, because all of us are fallible. We all make mistakes. We all, need the iron sharpening and the counsel sharpening of each other to get to the right answer. And so when we silence the opposition, and I'm not talking about, country boys like me that are looking at the data and repeating what's in the data. I'm talking about the most noted scientists on the planet, the best epidemiologists in the world are being silenced and not allowed to say these cloth masks do not work. They're not doing any good. The vaccine is not an end-all, be-all. It's a personal choice. If you're in the high-risk category, it might make sense for you to get it. But it is just amazing to me that we would silence these people that are, a year ago were some of the most respected scientists on the planet, but they weren't willing to go along with this mantra that's completely unscientific. And I've said it on the show before. I get righteously angry about the child abuse that's taking place right now. And these mask orders on kids, 8 hours a day, they're getting all kinds of bacteria in these masks. They're trading masks. They're snot slinging. I mean, it's nasty. And it's bad for them, not only physically, but psychologically. And zero scientific proof that they need to be doing it. It's not even dangerous to the kids. We had 5 times more kids die from the swine flu than have died from COVID. It's just criminal what they're doing. And I'm so proud of these parents in school districts all over the nation showing up at these school board meetings and saying, not my kid. You're not going to abuse my child. This nonsense has got to stop. I just wish they would truly have a scientific debate and let people get all the information and then make an informed decision about masks, about vaccines, about social distancing, about how they want to run their business. Those should be individual decisions, not government decisions.
Okay. We are seeing a pushback, Rick, and I don't know where it's going to go. I right now it seems to be civil, and I hope it stays that way. They are showing up at school boards. Some businesses are saying no. This Sunday in the state of Oregon is going to be a pretty good test for churches, because as of today, our governor has mandated masks in all businesses and public places, which probably certainly includes church on Sunday. And here's the problem. Let's say you have a business and you put a sign on your door that you have to wear a mask, and a customer walks in without a mask. And you don't throw them out. Or if you do throw them out, you just had bad public relations and lost a customer. If you don't throw them out, the business, get fined. I mean, we're now realizing that this isn't going to go over very well. We're not going to lose our businesses again. I don't know where this is heading, but you just feel like it's heading somewhere for a pushback. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. I'll tell you one of the most eerie experiences I had through this whole thing so far, 17 months into our 2 weeks to slow the spread, right? But yeah. This was last summer, and I was coming through Dallas. We were coming back. I don't remember where we were coming back from. Anyway, we stop at this restaurant, and I run in and order some food, and I'm not wearing a mask. And the guy, when the guy came out to ask me to put a mask on, his nervousness looking at the door, worried about the regulators, worried about the people that could take away his business license, take away his restaurant license. and his nervousness as he said, "Would you please just hold one in your hand just in case they come in?" And I thought, I cannot believe I'm in America right now. The idea that a business owner would be so afraid of the government that he's nervously walking back and forth, worried about they're about to pound through the door and shut him down because a customer's coming in and not wearing a mask that I knew by then, because I've been following the science, did not work. That is so eerie, but that's where we are. I mean, that was a year ago that took place. You know, Senator Rand Paul has been kicked off of YouTube and other social media for he's a medical doctor. Here's a medical doctor stating the science and talking about, you know, these cloth masks are not doing any good, and it's actually dangerous because you might be convinced that it's protecting you or protecting your loved one, and you go in to care for a loved one that's sick, and then you get sick. It's just, you know, it's bad science, and therefore it creates bad decisions, and it's all virtue signaling. I mean, just like what you're going through in Oregon right now. It's entirely virtue signaling, and I hope that the churches will say no, that we're going to worship freely, sing freely, breathe freely, and take on the government. We've won a few court battles, not near as many as I wish that we had won. I think the courts have failed us miserably over the last year and a half protecting constitutional rights. But I am very glad to see so many churches in California and Washington and really all across the country that have stood up to this nonsense, especially just the idea of not even being able to fellowship together. So, you know, the churches that are saying, hey, no, we're not going to forsake the fellowship. We're coming together. We need to be meeting the needs of the community. That's vitally important as it looks like we go into another round of potential, you know, lockdowns and mandates and regulations, even though, again, following the science, yes, cases are through the roof. Yes, this Delta variant can be nasty, but the death rate has stayed the same or dropped. It hasn't gone up with all of these increases in cases. And you know, Perry, I'm not downplaying the virus. My dad nearly died from COVID last summer. We had a horrible round of it through our family in my own home. So I get it. It can be bad. But boy, it is nothing like a Spanish flu or smallpox or an Ebola or any of these things that would actually rise to the level of what we would call in constitutional law a compelling interest for the government to actually step in and in any way infringe on your rights. And even if they do that, they're supposed to do it in the least restrictive, most narrowly tailored way. They're not following any of that constitutional law, all over a virus that 99.9% are going to survive just fine. We've just blown it way out of proportion because fear has taken over the brain. And, of course, we know God's not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Yeah. The sound mind part right now seems to be fleeting in America.
Very well said. Very well said. When we come back, you know, we talk about this. You've done it. I do it on the show a lot. I don't think we need any more evidence or to hear any more that the inconsistency of this has left us in a really tough spot. Yeah. And America is waking up, and there are signs that things are going to change. I mean, Cuomo's out, and Newsom's in trouble, and there's four other governors that are in trouble. They're showing up at school boards. Even a teacher stands up and resigns in front of a school board. So there's a pushback happening here, and I want you to comment on it. So let me take a quick break. Rick Green's with us. Always delighted to have him with us. He's the founder of the Patriot Academy. Folks, go to patriotacademy.com. That's his website. Spot on organization, doing a great work. We'll be right back.